Today's guest is my good friend, Adrian Garcia. Me and Adrian have been buddies for a very long time, and we just happen to be in the same industry, which is super cool. Today, we're going to talk about his company, Onward Group, and also the studio that he opened down in the Pearl, down in San Antonio, which he calls Studio O. It's a small little boutique podcast studio. He creates solid work. He always has. So anyways, here's my conversation with Adrian Garcia. Adrian, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You and I think we first met in like 2012, I want to say. Probably, yeah, because I was working at a church, and then Anthony Jackson, who was kind of like my mentor and my boss at the time.
A mentor of many.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah.
A mentor of many, especially like in this little pocket of filmmakers that we are in, you know? Yeah, he's mentored so many people. Like, I feel like every time I go up to his office, he's like, "Oh, this is Chris." He's
he has
like
another
a new young
Adrian
guy.
and Brent,
yeah,
like
exactly.
right there.
He's like, "This is Chris." He randomly sent me an email, and now he is editing an HBO series. And I'm like, "Well, okay, good." Yeah. And then he's gonna grow up and do amazing.
Sounds
things.
like the Anthony system that he has.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, good for him. So yeah, we met in 2012, and then we've worked together maybe a handful of times.
Right.
We went backpacking in Big Bend.
Oh my God, I tell people about that trip. I trusted you guys, and that was a rough trip for me.
Yeah, you made it.
I made it though, but it was rough. But yeah, that. I'd do it again probably.
100%. Yeah, for sure. So tell me a little bit about yourself. So I think you and I are kind of in similar industries right now, where we own a production company. Right. We do kind of client services, production stuff, but we also own a studio on the side. So kind of tell me about that.
Right. So the company Onward Group, I've been working in production since like 2012 or like kind of 2010, but full time in 2012. And it was just kind of me as a freelancer, right? How we all start out, and then you get busy and you get busy and you get busy. Then you start working with a team, you start growing. And 2020 is when I kind of formalized stuff to a name that I wanted people to remember, and it would be easy. Like more like corporate kind of, not way I was going, but like I just needed something common, easy for people to remember. And in 2020, when everything slowed down, which was helpful for some creatives because of how busy we were, just in general, I kind of just developed that name because I was like addicted to progression and just getting better and learning and like I mean, even just in here, like I'm looking at your stuff and I'm like, what? Like, I'm making this error, like, and you're like, maybe it's this, and I'm like, so it's just understanding and getting better every day. So that was progression. I looked up the word progression and I found the word Onward, and I sat on that for a bit. And I've always wanted kind of a team because all the stuff is very hard. Like you want to do so much, but you can't alone. Yeah. You got to have a team. So then that created group, right? And then the acronym OG, which was like amazing. And I was like, yes, this is so cool. That was in 2020. And we moved a lot over into real estate a lot because of all the stuff that happened. I mean, I came from marketing, like working with advertising firms and marketing firms and like documentary style stuff that we've worked on. And then like 2020 just like engulfed me into real estate, commercial and residential. So then that's like all Onward Group, and out of San Antonio and Austin. And now I'm full-time in Austin, but I still like do production in San Antonio with, the clients that I've had for over 10 plus years. And then we had our studio there, and we were just running production out of there. We had like 6 desks and all these, like, we were just editing. And then a lot of our production moved to Austin. So I kind of went with it. And then we still had our studio space at Pearl. And I was like, let's just convert. Like, we know the tech stuff. We have the cameras. We have the audio. Like, let's just create this podcast studio. And it's a lot to give San Antonio a voice. There's a lot of depth and there's a lot of stories in San Antonio. And I don't think people don't talk about it, right? We don't talk about it. We don't know, the depth of these people that have businesses and what they're doing or where they came from in San Antonio. And I get excited about that and hearing like kind of my home has these people of substance, and it kind of inspires like a younger me. Right. So then that became Studio O. maybe like a year or two ago, two years ago. And we designed the set similar to like, I got inspiration from The Shop and Uninterrupted. It's called so Uninterrupted is LeBron and Mav Carter's like venture, and The Shop is their podcast where they talk business, culture, entrepreneurship, sports with like Robert Kraft to like Meek Mill. And I got inspired how they did their set. That's kind of inspired me to do our podcast, which is Beyond the Craft. So taking that set and also taking the set of Jay Shetty and how his set is more like living room, like very lax kind of style. That's kind of how we designed ours in San Antonio.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Studio O is a podcast studio, like you mentioned. Y'all rent it out to other people. You also host your own podcast in there.
Correct.
And I do feel like your podcast had an influence on my podcast. Yours is called Beyond the Craft.
Yeah.
Mine is called Beyond the Studio.
Yeah. I love it.
And so maybe not intentionally, but like it probably
you get inspired. Like,
it's probably subconsciously. I was like, this is a great name.
Yeah.
And little did I know I was taking it from you.
It's those things that like people open up things in your mind. Yeah. I think Anthony is like he opens up things in people's minds, and then we become this. You know, you having your production company, your studio in Round Rock, and then me having my production company in a studio in San Antonio. And it's like, that was opened up by someone, you know, and it started like something small. And I don't know where the name Beyond the Craft came from. I understood it as like when I would sit, I would sit in, you can tell when you meet people that they go beyond their craft and they just go, like, if it's someone that's like cleaning your place to serving you a cocktail to cutting your hair to serving you food, there's a different aura and there's a different feeling when someone is doing it with tender love and care, and you feel it and you're like, what is that? I was like, I don't want anyone else to ever serve me a cocktail unless they're serving it like this. Yeah. You know, so I was understanding people's crafts. And I was finding, this person's a craftswoman or a craftsman. That's where craft came in. And I was like, they always go beyond what they were asked for. And I think I do it a lot in my business, where it's like, you're going to get this. It's under promise, over deliver, right? And you're going to get this. But then like once I actually finish the job, you're going to feel so taken care of. And you're going to get all these other things that you didn't even know you needed. And you're going to be like, well, that's why we hire you guys. Like, yeah, that's why you hire me, because I know things that you need when you don't even know you need them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, it's like hiring an architect or a gardener or whatever to come to your own house. They could show up and water the plants, or they could show up and be like, okay, this grass needs to be tended a little bit different. We could do this. Like, they see it more than you're able to see it, right? And so, like, it's like in Austin, everyone has a camera. Right. Everyone's a photographer. Everyone's a videographer. So like, we have a ton of competition here. And that's probably kind of happening all over the country now that it's getting cheaper and cheaper to shoot video.
Everyone has an iPhone, man.
Yeah. And now everyone's watching videos on TikTok instead of these bigger screens, which is how it was 10 or 20 years ago.
Right.
So yeah, you have to do something to like stand yourself out from all the other people with the camera.
It's the ideas. You just can't copy. I mean, you can copy ideas, but the new ideas, like, you have to develop them. And that's what separates you, is developing those new ideas. And because people can copy us. They can take the script, they can take the direction, they can get the same camera, they can get everything the same and make it look similar to ours. But the only way we stand out is the idea, you know, and the creative. And like, it's so funny. We saw a lot of it. We worked on this one client, and I saw things in the edit, and I was like, this is a blooper reel. Like, piece all those out and like throw them to the side. And then like, once we finish it, like, let's create a blooper reel. And then like, I see everyone in the market, like probably 6 months later, start requesting blooper reels.
That's great.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not saying I like created the blooper reel, but I was aware about it aware of the lack of it in that client space. And then it kind of just took off, and we were doing like behind the scenes things too on our productions all the time.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of them. Yeah.
And then the clients were like, I want to behind the scenes too. And I was like, I was actually just doing this to add more value. But if you're going to request it, then like this costs money.
Yeah.
Like it's another half day or a day of like editing, and they loved it. But it's like something that they didn't even know that they wanted that we showed. And that's the value you bring. And it's like seeing something whenever no one else sees it.
Yeah.
You know, so they're requesting blooper reels, they're requesting behind this. I want a BTS. And I'm like, so you want your main video, then you want like a short little documentary on the production. I'm like, oh my gosh, this costs this. I'm not even making money anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. When you opened up your podcast studio, was it easy to get those initial clients? Did you kind of have to go fishing
I thought
for
it would
them?
be easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I ignorantly thought it would be easy, and it's not, because the market in San Antonio doesn't quite understand the value that podcasting can bring, and just talking to a colleague in the same field or in completely different fields. And the cross marketing that happens in that is like substantial.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're going to cross market this, right? We both kind of do the same thing. Aren't we actually hurting ourselves? Probably not. You know, like there is no such thing as bad marketing. And even bad bad publicity.
Yeah.
It's kind of still good.
It's kind of still good as long as you're not hurting someone.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. But yeah, it's. I thought it was gonna be easy. You thought it was just gonna bite, and people are just gonna start flooding in, and it's like you tell them, but you kind of just have to walk people through it. You have to hold their hand in it. It's still kind of challenging, but every time I record an episode there, or anyone goes there and like records an episode, I believe they feel enriched. Even just like us teching it, like, doing switching, and like the person there that's kind of acting as the producer, they're just like, oh my gosh, this was so cool. And I'm like, yeah, it actually is. Like I can hear like girls talk about the new Taylor Swift album, or like The Bachelor, to like people talking politics, and people talking wellness, and people talking like gratitude and thankfulness. And I have other people that are talking like these young kids talking about going out and partying, but also being business owners and navigating their way through like being a 25-year-old like in San Antonio. And I'm like, this is kind of like, as much as I wouldn't click this on the screen, it's just so enriching to hear your perspective.
Yeah. And that's true too, because like I know in my life, I only have a few podcasts that I listen to. Like when I'm working out and stuff, I only have a few that I choose from. But when I'm recording their podcast here, I have to listen to them all. So like it does kind of expose me to the other people's worlds. Whereas traditionally, I probably wouldn't click on that podcast and listen to it because it's not really anything that interests me. But you're right. After listening to them in this room talking about it, I'm like, all right, yeah, that's interesting.
I would
they've
watch
got something
this,
to say.
or I would listen to this. Like, it's perspective, and it's like the more we can, I think, broaden our perspective, that's I guess true knowledge. I don't know. I just feel like even though like it's like different things that I'm listening to when we're producing these at the studio, I'm like, this is cool. Like now I know how y'all's mind works, and I feel a lot more like educated. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, it is challenging. It's still challenging, but if it were easy, we'd all have clients coming in, and everyone would be making money, and there would be no competition, and like, but it's like, no, it's anything worthwhile is going to be challenging. Yeah. It's like how deep are you to go into it? And it's like, we record some of the episodes there, or I hear some of the, like one of my friends' podcasts, Happy Not Satisfied, they do theirs at the studio. And I like, not that I get emotional, I just like, I'm so thankful that they are doing it here, and all these stories are coming out of this studio, and they're filming them here. And I feel like so grateful to hear it, to be like the studio that helps produce it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, these are stories that people they're going to age like wine. You know, we don't see the fruits of it now. We don't see like the depth of it now, but they're going to age like wine. And we're going to be glad that we recorded these stories, and these stories are digital and they're going to live forever. And some of the episodes, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm just excited that you guys are doing this. I don't even care if it's like the studio. It's like, I don't even care, but I'm just glad someone is recording the stories of San Antonio, like in the heart of it, you know, and showing the people of substance.
Yeah. Cause podcasts are like, not everyone gets podcasts yet. You know what I mean? Like they're super popular. And like, if you're in the podcasting game, you understand how powerful they are and that everyone's kind of doing podcasts now. But everyone's got a voice, you know? And so I always encourage people when they come in, I'm like, yeah, like just give it a try. Like everyone's got a voice. And I know everyone's probably had that moment where they're like, you know, I could be up there and on that camera with a microphone saying something and having people listen to me and listen to whatever I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
I think that's what podcasting does. It's a low barrier of entry.
Yeah.
Like you can literally start a podcast with your phone, right? You don't need all this fancy stuff. You can just start it with your phone and start it by yourself. Start it with your spouse or whatever. It's a low barrier of entry to have the world hear your voice. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it's I have to like kind of like, throttle that voice, right? I got to make sure I'm speaking in like not in ignorance, but when I do have those conversations and like in Beyond the Craft where I'm trying to bring different people into the room, you know, I'm trying to bring a hairstylist, you know, a designer, a business owner, and like I don't know, like a chef or a teacher into the room, and I'm trying to align like why they do what they do and why they give it that tender love and care and why they go beyond their craft. But when I hear those stories, I'm just like, I feel so enriched after them. And I'm like, this is, yes, it's low barrier. Like everyone has a voice, use your voice. Don't walk in fear. There's people that are not going to like it, you know? And it's like, but that's why people are not doing what they want to do, even just in the social space, because they're worried about people's opinions, you know?
Yeah, fear is a huge barrier, and it holds us back.
And now you just kind of have to, like, I look at it and I'm like, I have to be somewhat delusional. To like, not like to let my voice, because I'm asking them, have a voice. We've created, you know, just like your studio, we've created where it's like you get it. We take all the things out of marketing yourself and having a voice online. It's now your duty to post it and share it. But that's the hardest part, is getting over that fear of like, what is this person going to say? Or what is this person going to say? Or like, it's like, don't create it for other people. Create it because create it like no one's in the room, you know? Because actually, these people don't care. They have their own lives. They have their own insecurities. So it's just be a little delusional and just like don't care and just post a bunch of crap. You know, and I think when I look at creative like that, and I like I'm gonna share what I want to share, and I'm gonna share what I want to share, and those things that I share, people are like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is so authentic. And I'm like, yes. I didn't post that because like I thought I was like hoping to get that from you. I just was a little delusional, and I was like, I don't care what people are gonna say. Yeah. So you just have to like do it, and then you get so much. 9 times out of 10, you don't get any feedback, and that's fine. But you didn't post it for that. You posted it because it was true to you, you know. And then that one person that's like, I'm so glad you did this, and I'm like, oh yeah. I'm glad I did too. I stayed true to myself, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. The person you should try and please first is yourself. Right. Do it for yourself, and then post it out and see what the world thinks. But first and foremost, you gotta do it for yourself.
Well, I mean, that's what true art is, right? True art is like not even worrying about like the consumer. Like true art is like creating the art from within you, right? It's a communication of your soul and you're putting it on something, right? If it's a painting, if it's a design, if it's a film, if it's a photograph, like whatever, if it's in writing, you know, true art is just putting, you know, your vulnerability out there. It's not about putting your vulnerability out there in the hopes that someone likes it. You know, I think I got into the space, and I think I'm going to assume ignorantly for other creatives, it's like, we didn't get in this space to be influencers. We didn't get in this space to be, we got in photography and video because it was from our soul. Like we saw something and we needed to document it. That's why we got into space. We didn't get into space because TikTok was going off and you know, being an influencer was cool. We weren't called influencers at that time. We were called paparazzi, and we were called Peter Parker. That's who we were when we had cameras around our neck. And now everyone has a camera around their neck, you know, but it's creating authentically and not because I want to be popular, you know. And I think there's a lot of people that are just creating because they want to be popular, and then you're wasting your time.
Yeah. Yeah. And as an artist, you know, you're like creating is so rewarding as an artist.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of your point of life. Yeah. And so building this studio is a form of my art. Like, even though it is different than like the traditional ways I used to go about art with a camera and stuff like that, it's still very rewarding. And it's also building stuff with your hands. Like I have to use my hands to build all this, you know what I mean? And I love woodworking as well. Just a little bit. I'm not like super good, but like I dabble a little bit, and I have, you know, some tools and stuff like that. And yeah, that's building with your hand, and I love it. And so this is kind of a perfect marriage of my like cinematography and my media history, and then creating with your hands and forming a business around that. So yeah, it's this kind of it's a huge art form.
It's the design of it, right? Like we became somewhat of architects or designers of our studios. You know, we took different ideas from other studios and we created ours, you know, and I think true artists, they don't copy, they try to like elevate, right? They try to take an idea and try to take, you know, I like this from this studio and I like this from this studio, and let me merge them and marry them and create my own, like, you know, recipe of it, you know. And we did our studio, and I was just like, I was asking a handful of my designer friends, and I was like, I want it to be a little bit more feminine. I don't want it to be masculine. I want it because men are they'll come in, they'll do it. They're not worried about it. I want women to feel comfortable in this space and not to feel like it's too masculine, right? So like I designed it, and I just like took a bunch of stuff online, and I was putting stuff together. I inquired with a lot of people and asked, like, they weren't even designers, just like aesthetic people that like I understand their aesthetic, and I'm like, what would you like, you know? And then I just designed it and bought stuff online and try to like, and then people would come in and they're like, oh my gosh, this is designed so well. And I was like, yeah, this is my attempt at like interior design, but it's like, you never know what you're going to get if you don't do it. Yeah. Right. If you don't do it. And yeah, we became our own like designers of like, you know, we visually, you know, would communicate through like with cameras and stuff. And then now we're doing it with spaces. Who knows what comes out of that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And the design part of it is pretty hard, because I had to do the same with this space and the space out there. And then even the green room. That
we take designers for granted.
Oh my gosh, I know. And I was the same way. I was looking online at like what other people were doing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this looks so good. And then I would try to piece it together with stuff I found online, and I would go shopping, and it's hard work. Yeah. It's a lot of hard work.
We take designers for granted, and like we look at a canvas and we're just like, oh, we look at their canvas, their finished canvas, and we're like, oh, you know, buy this, buy that. And then you do, and you're like, huh, how do I? Yeah. You know, and even just being visual people, like we do appreciate it. We do appreciate like, you know, as like, you know, visual people, you know, in that space, we appreciate when we see a good room and good lighting and all that stuff. But then with designers, it's tones, it's textures, it's different things that we can't even comprehend. We just know how to appreciate it. Yeah. You know, and I mean, now I have a newfound, respect for designers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you buy all your furniture new?
I like to hand me down a lot of stuff. I try to buy like quality pieces. Like, I'll just like look on Facebook and I'll buy pieces like that. I was really good at a time, like just like flipping, like just furniture and cycling. Then I just got bored of it, and I was like, I don't want to put any effort into it. So we did have like some stuff already. Like we had a couch that I kind of just got rid of right now. But we did buy our main chairs new. Yeah, we bought them on Amazon, you know, and they worked out. I think some people like them. We bought another set of chairs. They were on Amazon too. But I'm like looking on Facebook constantly for like new stuff or like try to elevate it more and more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had to slow myself down from looking on Facebook Marketplace because I was the same. I was trying to outfit this whole studio. So every day I'd look, but then I just started like buying stuff and wanting stuff. And I was like, I got to take a break for a little bit. Let me work with what I have. And then
you have to figure out how to put it all together.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this is a great chair. This is a great cabinet. Or this would go great on this wall kind of in the back. And you're like, oh, how do I put this together now? How do I make this cohesive like a designer would? It's a lot of like Pinterest and Arc Digest. And you're just putting like stuff together. You're like, how can I find this for like a tenth of the cost?
Yeah.
And then you're having to do that on like Amazon or Facebook. But sometimes you come across some good things, but we did buy the new chairs, carpet. I did like Facebook, some like, and some of the stuff came from my apartment. I was just like bringing all this stuff for like aesthetic. I was like, my apartment can be a white canvas again. Like I don't care. Like as long as this space looks good.
Beyond the Studio is produced and recorded at Round Rock Studio, the perfect space to bring your visual ideas to life. Round Rock Studio is a photography and production studio with a 20-foot by 20-foot cyclorama wall. The studio has built-in lights, essential grit gear, and even a client green room, setting you up for a successful shoot. Round Rock Studio also offers podcast recording in their state-of-the-art podcast room, including microphones, cameras, lights, and everything you need to get your podcast out into the world. Go to roundrock.studio for more information. Round Rock Studio, a place for creatives to be creative.
Yeah, so y'all are in San Antonio. Y'all are in a prime location, right? In the Pearl.
Right.
How did y'all find that location?
I have a lot of like ties to that space. I met one of my best friends and business partners. No, I didn't meet him there. I met him at local coffee, which is kind of I would say the big brother to like Merit Coffee. So in San Antonio, local started in like Stone Oak, I believe, area, and Merit Coffee was the roaster. Now Merit is its own like coffee shop in Austin, San Antonio. But there's a local coffee at Pearl, and I met my business partner there. And then steps away, there was a advertising firm that he worked with, like doing websites, and then I started to work with doing like photo and video. Right, that company was called Taylor West, and Bill West. Rebecca, our lead of operations, she worked for Bill West. My best friend was, worked for Bill West also. And I worked for him, like all contract stuff. And then I met Rebecca in that office, probably like 2015 times. And those spaces don't come available. People have been there forever. Bill West was there when like that road was like dirt. And now it's like, pavement or cement, and like but getting that space, Bill West was looking to get rid of it after like almost 10 plus years of having it. And I kept on looking at that space, and I was like, this is what I would need. when production got crazy and like we needed more, I was fitting like 3 desks in my like second bedroom in my apartment at Pearl. And I was like, I think I can fit one more desk in here, but it was like tight, and I had gear, and like it was just tight. So I was like, I think I want this space. So I asked Rebecca, I was like, hey, like, I'm looking for a space. And obviously I want to be at Pearl because that's like prime location to be at. It's San Antonio's South Congress area.
Yeah, it's a hip place to be.
Oh my gosh, it's so awesome. So much going on there. But I kept on looking at that space, and I was like, man, this is the space I want. This is the space I want. And I asked Rebecca, I was like, hey, do you know any space? She's like, just ask Bill if he's like, and I passively aggressive asked Bill. I was like, hey, do you know any spaces coming available? And he's like, funny you to ask. And when people say funny you to ask, I don't believe in like luck. I believe in like the universe puts things in people's paths. He's like, funny you to ask. I'm looking to get rid of it. Like I'm trying to transition out. And he's like, I'll call. He didn't say that. He's like, I'll call you in 3 minutes. Older guy, like super direct, like old businessman, old advertising man, Mad Men style type of guy. Yeah. And he called me and he's like, oh, so yeah, like thinking about getting rid of it. Like, what are you looking for? And we talked details, and I think within 3 weeks I was fully transitioned in.
Nice.
And they were all moving their stuff out, and they were going fully remote, and we just hit the ground running. We just had like 6 IKEA desks on the walls. We were just editing. We had a conference table. I had gear in the back, loading out back and forth out of San Antonio and Austin. And it kind of just all came about. And we were actually, I have video of this. We were moving in, Kevin and my friend Mac were moving in our desk from the apartment on Labor Day, like a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And it was just so euphoric because I was like, Labor Day.
Working on Labor Day.
And we're like moving these desks with like the little like production carts that we have.
That's
and
great.
I was like, this is it. This is the life. Like, this is how it's supposed to be. But yeah, we got lucky coming into that space. Not lucky. We were just, it's the universe. And I was good people with all those people. And, it fell in my lap. And I couldn't have a better space, I feel like, in a better area.
Yeah. It's an important thing is the space and the location of where you are.
Yeah.
Like even us, like this, where we were, this business model wouldn't work where we were before, just because there wasn't enough traffic, there wasn't enough creative people in the area. So where we are currently in Round Rock, it works for us. And I imagine it's the same for y'all.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you just have so much people walking. There's so much people walking by our office, our studio. And that's what makes it difficult for me because I'm like, it's literally says what this place is. Like, but I don't, it's hard. I think it's hard for San Antonians to make that first step. They can see something and be like, oh my gosh, this is good. Like, this is cool. But it's like actually executing, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, I think a lot of people in our industry have started their career in their spare bedroom. Mm-hmm. Like I know I did, like editing in my spare bedroom, and then it kind of grows a little bit and you got to start hiring some people. So you're like, okay, well, this isn't going to work in my spare bedroom. So you get a little bit bigger place and, you just kind of grow with your business. It's always a funny thing. I guess actually a lot of businesses now can start out of your spare bedroom.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's work from home. So like I mean, when the work from home happened, they were like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I'm like, actually, you have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
You have to be disciplined. And I remember before the work from home started, everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's so crazy. You can work. It's so awesome. You can work remote. You can work, in a coffee shop. You can work on your couch. You can work wherever. And it's like, actually, it takes a lot more discipline than that. And actually, you do have to work probably more than y'all. You 9 to 5 focused in an office, like you can probably get all that work done, but it's a lot harder to do it when you have all these distractions of being in a coffee shop or being like at home, so you have to be disciplined. And I think what we saw in that work from home culture is that you see a lot of people that couldn't. They needed to be focused at the office, or they needed to be around people, or there are people that like were actually disciplined and they get more work done at home. But yeah, I mean, I started editing. I have old pictures of me just like editing out of my parents' like house, like in my bedroom, just like editing. I had my desk and a little like $40 monitor from like Best Buy. And I'm just like,
Oh yeah.
we have those desk pick, from years ago. Started doing that. And then I moved into like an apartment. My best friend, his wife cut hair downstairs, and I moved upstairs into the primary bedroom, and I had that as my editing. Like I was editing, sleeping, had a little mini fridge in there, and I was like editing. And then we moved to a coffee shop, and then from a coffee shop we moved to his garage, and then from his garage we moved to my second bedroom, and then from that we moved to an office.
Yeah, and those are the stepping stones to get
yeah.
to where you are. And even now, what we're doing in our lives now are stepping stones to get to where we're going in the future.
Oh yeah. They're all stepping stones, and like you can't just go from like going, you have to go through it. It has to be sweet. Like it makes these moments of having a space, like I mean you have at Round Rock Studio, it makes it even sweeter because we know that we were just like editing like in our bedroom, you know what I mean? Just like on the computer. And now we have like these great spaces and these great areas, it's like, it makes it even sweeter. You can't just plop in and be like, oh, I want to be creative. Like anyone want to invest so that I can get, it doesn't.
Yeah. You kind of have to earn it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You got to pay the dues.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like, this studio was always a dream of mine, even in high school. It was far in the back of my mind because I was like, it's obviously not going to happen right now or even in a year or even in 10 years. So it's definitely a goal that you kind of have to take baby steps.
Yeah. I mean, we were like creating this studio. We had that studio at Shoreline, like we were like, I mean, like Shoreline kind of had something similar to that. I think it was a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
We were just like, we know those studios, we know like those, like we paid our dues. And we still will, no matter what it takes, we'll still pay our dues. The funny thing about like even just paying dues and like being in like studio or like office spaces, the old P&R office on whatever that road is, like just
Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah,
the old P&R office. They hired me to be like an editor, like part time. Like I was working Monday through Wednesday, and I lived in San Antonio, so I would sleep in the office. And I had a cot, and I'd bring my little coffee machine because no one drank coffee at P&R.
Oh my gosh, really?
I mean, Anthony led it. He didn't drink coffee. Anthony never drinks coffee. So I'd bring my little coffee machine and my blanket, and I'd sleep on a cot like sometimes Sunday night, and then Wednesday I'd come back to San Antonio to work. And that was like a big learning lesson, just like being in those like moments. Like sleeping in the office, and I'd hear people like come in at like 9 a.m. and I'm like getting up, like, and I'd get on my desk and
like you've been there for an hour already.
Dude. Yeah, but that was it. That was the life. I was like 20 something, and I was doing that, and it came full circle to where I was sleeping in that office in Austin, and then when I actually moved to Austin, and then we have Studio O at Pearl. I was sleeping in that office now, and I was living in San Antonio, sleeping in Austin at P&R's office, and now I'm living in Austin, sleeping at my studio at Pearl.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Whoa, this is cool!" Like
that's great. It's flipped.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
and it's sweet. It makes it even sweeter.
Yeah, yeah. So your studio transitioned from like your production company, which is Onward, and then you transitioned it to a podcast studio. Right. Why'd you go about that?
I saw an opportunity. I saw it a little too early. I hate to give myself that excuse, but the stories and Beyond the Craft is a pop-up podcast, right? So we create the set in wherever, right? We create the set in a restaurant. We've created it in like a social club. We've created like Dan wants to create one. We want to pop up a set like on a football field, because he does marching band designing, designs I guess the choreography is what you would call it. So he wants to do one like in a football field, and I was like, that's the cool thing. It's like it is an interview, but it is a podcast, right? So that's what Beyond the Craft. I love the idea of like the pop-up set, right? Where we can pop up at any business and just like create it. It's expensive. It takes a lot of gear and a lot of money and people to like create it, you know, within an hour or whatever. But then I was like, this kind of makes sense because we can do like a pop-up set, and then also we can have an in-studio version of Beyond the Craft. So I was like really, I'm still wanting to do more of the podcast stuff because I think there's a lot to say. I think a lot of the things I talk to with people, like they're like, I never heard it in that way. And I'm like, not that I saw an opportunity myself, but I kind of did, you know, like, and you have all these, you know, creatives that they don't know. And we didn't have us, you know, like there was a lot of gatekeepers at our time. Now everyone's on YouTube just letting you know like how to create a business, you know, how to get more clients, all that stuff. And we're kind of sometimes those people for our younger selves, you know, and I have people that are just like wanting to just chat and just like understand how I created the business and stuff like that. So I was like, you know, there's an opportunity. We could just have, you know, the studio. I love our space. We still have work there. And I was like, let me just create this. It's aligned with Beyond the Craft. I also know the whole technical stuff, you know, of audio, video, lighting, and just running, like producing it. And I was like, let's just do it. Like, and it's a risk, you know, like it's a risk. And no, I just saw the opportunity and I was like, I'm going to do it. Let's see what it does. Yeah. And I mean, people that go there, they're just like, oh my gosh, this is smart. You're in such good area. I was like, yeah. Just getting people in, you know?
Yeah. How did you get people in once you opened the doors?
A lot of just social marketing, you know, and kind of that kind of had a little bit of help. But some of the people that, you know, happy not satisfied with, you know, Eleanor and Dan, like it was kind of universal. Like they were at a crossroads and Eleanor was writing me and she was like, do you have time to like edit? Dan has these podcasts that he's doing like on Zoom, like, and they need to be edited. He's like, do you have like, you know, an intern that you can like, you know, refer us to? And I was like, Eleanor, like I literally have a space for this.
Yeah.
Like where all the things that are stopping you from like creating y'all's podcast and that editing is all done already. You know, it's alleviating all the headaches of like the post-production of podcasting. And she was like, what? And then I think she came by that day and she was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I needed. She's like, I think she was looking for a studio and all that stuff. And I was like, no, we have it. And she actually lives like at Pearl too. So she was like, walked down from her apartment and came and she saw our space and she's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we needed. And I think, yeah, so like we got people in that way. And then also just writing people online, messaging people and just offering them to come check it out and giving them a tour of the space. We have a handful of clients like just in like from Onward Group. So we had a client appreciation event / studio opening a while back. And that helped show people the space. But it's just constant. Like, it's like, do I have to have another party? Like,
yeah,
you know,
so you got to plan it. You got
and then just invite a bunch of like more people and just, but I think getting people in the door like that. And my friend, Ryan from Pouch 6, their Pouch 6 Studios. That's the right word. He had an opening for his, and it was exactly like it was just a way to do it. You know, he just had a bunch of people. He probably wrote a bunch of people, influencers. You know, they had it sponsored by like Sunday Tequila and like I think they had like a food sponsor. I can't remember that one, but and then they were like running sessions, like little micro sessions of like telling people what they do and stuff. And I was like,
yeah, that's cool.
Freaking Ryan, so smart. I was like, this is so good.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him in here, and I'm just going to pick his brain on like, how do you market your podcast studio? Because sometimes you do have to sell the podcast studio to people, even if people do understand podcasting. Like maybe they're not at the level where they quite understand why you would pay for a space.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, why would you take your podcasting to the next level? So yeah, you definitely do have to sell it to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I sell it in a way where it's like it's not even podcasting. It's really just educating your audience on what you do.
Yeah.
Right? Like my lawyer friend, like I don't need you to like start a podcast, but you need to give me the top 10 errors people make, like where they can utilize a lawyer or where they can utilize your service, and just talk on camera, like, and everything's taken care of, man. Like, do you realize, like, if people, lawyers and different businesses will hire me and spend like a couple $100s on photography so that they can put it in a description what they do. You spend like $240 like at our studio, and you can spend an hour creating, like talking to a colleague or someone in your field. And you're also like asking them questions, and you're kind of like phasing these questions so that you can also answer. So that what happens is that you're educating your audience, and you're using all those, like, think about an hour and think about like 30-second bits. How much of those 30-second bits are you educating your audience? And now they trust you because you've kind of unpeeled the onion.
Yeah.
They're looking to you as the educator, not just like, oh, this is just another like holistic doctor or, like restaurant owner or something. You're educating the market, your audience.
Yeah.
So I sell it to them like that. I'm like, you don't need to create a podcast. You don't need to do the branding. You have all this social stuff, and people are on social. When they swipe and they see good video content, video quality with lighting and good cameras, and then they hear it and it's like great audio, and they're like, God dang, this person takes their job seriously. And that's who people want to work with, people that take their job seriously.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
out of that hour, y'all cut it down into a bunch of socials. Do you use Opus Clip?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Opus Clip's great.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. Even this morning, we had a client who wanted another social cut. They were like, hey, we said this in the podcast. Can you give us this social cut? And I just logged into Opus Clip because I'd already uploaded it, and it took 45 seconds for me to find that clip.
I love it. I love how it rates it and stuff.
Yeah.
It rates it. It tells you, like, it gives you like the top 10, clips and why they're the top 10. Yeah, but we're offering those as just add-ons. Usually, people charge for them, and I'm just like running it in the AI and offering them. I'm like, just share these, like.
And a lot of times, like, at least in my business, like, I start offering things after I see a market for it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how podcasting came up. Because people would come in and they would say, hey, do y'all do podcasting? And initially we didn't. So I was like, okay, I could set up a podcast for you in our studio, but it's going to be expensive because I'm having to set it up from scratch, and we're having to record it.
Right.
We're having to edit it. Like, we're not set up efficiently for that to be cost effective.
Right.
And people asked me multiple times. So I was like, all right, let's do podcasting. And so we did it, and now we're doing it. And yeah, even other small stuff, people will come in and ask for something, and then I'll kind of tuck it in the back of my mind and be like, okay, we should probably start offering this eventually.
What are those things that they're asking for?
Social media cuts. We're also going to offer photography. So if people come in and they're launching a new podcast, they need photography.
Right.
And they need a thumbnail for their thing. So it's kind of evolved from us just recording a podcast to kind of expanding it to doing it from start to finish.
Right. A little bit of branding stuff, like a little bit of stuff for them to brand.
Yeah. Yeah. So you keep mentioning that you have a business partner, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that relationship work? Because I've always gone about my businesses without having a business partner. It's always just been me. And I've always thought about what would a business partner look like? How would that kind of change my business or my role?
It's interesting. And so Rebecca, she is pretty much part-time with me. So she's not quite my business partner on paper, but she's just kind of just my mentor. You need to hire people better than you at things that you're not good at, right? And Rebecca comes from like 20 plus years in like advertising and marketing. And so as far as like business partner, she's not a business partner on paper. Of course, I should marry it into like getting her a business partner, like, because I'm like, I cannot exist without a Rebecca.
Yeah.
because of the way my mind is, and it's not a cop out, but it's like it's tapping into your zone of genius. Rebecca's zone of genius is the complete opposite of what my zone of genius is. And both of our zone of geniuses is like magical, right? Because I know I can look at a paper and I know this is all the stuff I need to do. And then I can tap into my creativity and do those things, right? So working with her, I think there's respect. It's having respect for each other. I know we do get frustrated with each other sometimes. She has to kind of crack the whip on me, which is helpful, and I have to be okay with that. And just because it's not about ego, it's about getting the job done, right? This is not about ego or who owns the company. It's really like what's best for the company, what's best for the client, what's best for the people we work with, right? And sometimes she has to kind of like guide me in that way, and that's great because I'm just like, I'm navigating business the way and creativity the only way I know how to.
Yeah.
And she has more experience. So it's just, it's been so helpful. And our clients know too. Like, they're like, everyone needs a Rebecca.
It's funny. We have the same conversations. They will come up, but it's not Rebecca in my company. It's Taylor.
Okay.
So people will say, everybody needs a Taylor. And I'm like, oh yeah. And it's the same way where I'm very creative focused and she's more admin focused.
Right.
Right. So it's a great relationship.
Right.
And once I hired her, my business took off, right? Because I was able to focus on what I wanted and what I needed to focus on. I didn't need to waste my time balancing books and sending invoices and checking emails and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was the biggest. Hiring Rebecca was probably the most challenging for me financially, but when I saw Rebecca's value is just unreal, right? Like, there's people that just create their own value, and they're kind of like, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so dependent on you now, right? Because they're so valuable to your business, right? And I think that's vital, right? You should always create value for the people you work with and the people you're around. But it was the most challenging financially hiring her. But I just like kept on thinking, and I was like, I just told myself, I got out of my car one day and walked to the elevator to my apartment. I was like, I can do it. I can do it because I know it's difficult right now, but in the long run, like Rebecca, like she's worth every freaking penny.
Yeah.
And then I did it, and like she looked at the books, she looked at our client list, and she's like, Adrian, you are crazy. How do you take on all these clients at one time?
By yourself.
And you're doing you're planning, you're doing invoicing, you're in pre-production, you're about to go shoot something, you need to edit this. And then like it was just so much. And I was like, this is the list. These are the estimates I have to like create. These are the planning. This is in production. This is in post-production. And it was just this massive list of clients we had. And these are the people I want to reach out to, and she's like, you are crazy. How do you do this? And I'm like, I don't know. I just, we wake up and we try it. And we have people like, hey, where's this? Or where's this? I'm like, today I'm getting it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting it today. No, but like, I mean, it's just been so helpful. And even just her looking at my emails and I'll tell her like, I hate writing emails. And I hate writing emails. It's not me. And I'll tell her like, this is what we need to say, and word it like this and word it like that. I have an insecurity in writing emails. I'm like, ugh. Yeah. But she'll write them, and she'll like, they'll just be so like clear.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when bringing you in, Taylor did all that.
Yeah.
Like, and I could have easily just texted you, but I knew that if I was responsible for scheduling, then it wouldn't get done. You know what I mean? Like we would text back and forth. We'd keep on pushing it back. Yeah. So that's why I was like, Taylor, this is my buddy Adrian. Yeah. Bring him in. Find a day to bring him in. And yeah, it's great. It's amazing what, having the right person
I hide things from Rebecca because I know that if I tell her something, she's going to get it done.
Yeah.
And she's going to nag me till it's done.
Yeah.
And I would like when I told her about Beyond the Craft and I told her about the idea, I was talking to friends about it. I was like, I want to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this, but I had to hide it from Rebecca until I was ready, because I knew that when she did it and I told her like we need to do this, I want to schedule this, blah blah, I was gonna hear about it. Like, where are you with this? Where are you with that? Where are you with that? I'm like,
Yeah.
God dang. So I had to be ready.
Yeah.
Because those people they check off the list. It's a task. It irks them that they can't complete that, right? If you're just being creative and procrastinate it. And that's what's like, she won't let me procrastinate it. And that's where it's like, yeah, I know that I need that, you know?
That's great. I wanted to talk about one thing while we're here. I feel like every time I log onto Facebook
Okay.
or I log into Strava,
Okay.
I feel like I've seen that you have just casually ran 10 miles on your lunch break, or you casually run 13 miles before going to work.
Right.
You run all the time.
This funny thing, one of my friends was telling me about it today. Well, I was talking to my friend May. She's in San Antonio, right? She's in San Antonio. May knows me just from like, we connected through another friend, Raina, right? And May came to the studio and she was like, oh my gosh, like we just bonded. Like May and I are kind of the same person. Like she's like the female version of me in a way. And we were on the phone today in the morning before I got here. And she's like, oh yeah, I ran into one of the guys that worked for you. And I was like, who? So what does he look like? He's like, oh, this guy. And I was like, oh, Kevin. It's like, oh yeah, Kevin's awesome. He's like, yeah, he spoke very highly of you. He said, Adrian's like, he's like, when I met and Kevin met me, like probably around the time you met me, maybe Kevin met me a little later. He's like, when I met Adrian was like on it. Like he's just like always working. He's like, at it, like just aggressive. And May's like, actually, like he's kind of just chill now. He's like super chill, like just kind of doing his thing. And Kevin's like, yeah, that's because that's why he runs so much, or that's why he is the way he is like that, because he runs so much.
Yeah.
And I think I had to understand about myself is that I am a little extreme in a way with the business, because that's what put food on the table when, you know, you didn't have 2 dimes to rub together. So you had to be like a little bit extreme. But I had to figure out something to mellow me out and to balance me out. And in 2020 is whenever the running started happening a lot, because I had this intuition that like it was just gonna get busy because of like COVID and like how people needed visual media, right? And I was like, there's gonna be one client that's gonna say something that's gonna piss me off. It's gonna ruin my whole day, because I was like that. I was that person, and I was like, I need to figure out the antidote for it. And so I started like 15 minutes out, like at 5 o'clock, I think every day. I was running in the evening, and at 5 o'clock every day, I'd run 15 minutes out and run 15 minutes back. And that was like my discipline. And then I got bored. So I started running 20 minutes out, 20 minutes. And then, you know, it just stacks on itself. And that was my antidote. That's my mental health, like thing of like having so much going on and being able to like think level. And it does help me so much. It's part of the routine. It's a good discipline. And I'm able to think unemotional in some of the business decisions, because I'm not like antsy from like, you know, I don't have all this built up like emotions. I'm kind of just like mellow in a way. Yeah. I still get kind of on edge too, but I noticed when I don't work out or run, that's when I'm like on edge. I'm like, oh, like I can have a short fuse. But it's helped out a lot. And as of right now, I've ran 5 consecutive half marathons every month. So I just got back this weekend from Maui, and I was running a half marathon there.
Dang.
And it's just like a discipline, and I needed it. You know, I needed it more than it needed me. But so it's like, yeah, I'll just run, you know, it kind of clears my head in a way. And the oxygen just like brings you life, like running outside and stuff. So yeah. And my you didn't see me, my Strava didn't log it on Sunday. That's when I ran the last one, because my watch didn't charge.
Oh no.
So it just
All that
logged.
running for nothing.
It just logged 4 miles, and I'm like, meh, I guess.
Yeah, that's
But-
great. Yeah, running. I mean, obviously, it's physically healthy. Like we all know that, but there's also something about like overcoming that pain because like
Oh.
it's painful when you run, even if
Yeah.
you're a runner. Like it's uncomfortable once you
Right.
hit like mile 2 or 3.
Right.
It's uncomfortable, but overcoming that pain, it just kind of shows you that you can overcome difficult things.
Right.
So when life gets tough in
Oh,
business
yeah.
or in parenting or whatever anyone's going through, if you can kind of lean back on that feeling
Oh,
of
yeah.
overcoming the pain when you're running, it'll help you get through anything.
It's the Huberman talked about it a lot, and there's a part of the brain that it grows when you do difficult things. It grows, and they saw that in like certain people that it grows not when you do things that you kind of are routinely doing, but when you do things that you don't want to do and you do them, the part of the brain grows, and I think people start to get addicted to that, and I think it's universal. And yes, like it does, the running and the pain and the I don't want to get up and do this and go run in this cold, and you go do it and you're like, I did it, I can overcome, I can do it. And then you run into a difficult client or a difficult job or a challenging like technical thing, and you're just like, I can do it. Like or I don't want to do this job, or I don't want to get up early, or I don't want to do this. It's like that part of your brain is an overcoming part of the brain, and then you're seeing that I've done a lot of things that I don't want to do, and they've been beneficial for my life. So what is this other thing that I don't want to do? And it is going to be beneficial for my life. I just being lazy or, being a human being.
So yeah, so you've got your production company, you've got the studio. What's next?
So we'll do the Beyond the Craft. We'll do the studio, just trying to get as much stories as we can in San Antonio documented. We're doing a lot of media, photo, video in Austin. What's next? I'm studying a lot with people, just like on relationships. Pretty much like human design, right? Why people do what they do. The one thing that I've always had in my mind to do is helping people find their purpose. I found mine, fortunately, at an early age. And of course, like whenever you experience something like a good restaurant, you want to share it with everyone. You want everyone to try it. You want everyone to experience it. Well, 90, it's gotten probably lower because it's a little bit easier with technology for people to create a business. But, when I started finding my purpose in like 2012 and those times, 99% of the people I was talking to, they had no idea like what an idea of having a purpose is. It was all, just around the people I was around, the blue collar, like workers. And we're just like, what is purpose? You know what I mean? Like, you mean I'm supposed to enjoy my job?
Yeah.
You mean I'm supposed to like enjoy Mondays? I'm supposed to look forward to it. So talking to people like that, talking to people where I can like open up things in their head and they can open up things in mine. Right. So helping people find their purpose. I fortunately found mine young. And that was a lot due to like people like Anthony opening up things in my mind and I didn't seek out mentors. I just put myself in that lane, and people became that, and so learning about that. And I think I've never heard someone say it, or maybe one of my friends said they heard it. But what's next for me is I want to live a life of a bunch of firsts. Like first everything, right? What can I do next that I can learn about, right?
Yep.
Not necessarily changing careers. Like, of course, I'm always like do my career, but like living a life of first time doing, 12 half marathons in a year.
Yep.
First time running a marathon. I'm not there yet. You know, first time trying this food, first time traveling to this place, first time, you know, taking a risk on this or whatever. So living a life of first, that's pretty, like, I'm pretty interested in that right now.
Yeah, that's great.
What about you?
What's next here? You know, I have big plans for the studio.
Okay.
Inspiring the next generation
that's
is kind of what you just spoke about. And that really resonates with me too, because I think that's ultimately what I want to do with this studio. Because I remember I went to film school, right, or community college that had a video production course, and then I got a job after that. But the whole time you're learning, and you know, you're right, to be able to dig into your art and make a career out of it is, I couldn't have asked for a better life.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then outside of my career, I have an amazing wife and amazing kids. So like I'm very fortunate to have the life that I have. And I feel lucky every single day to wake up and do what I do. So yeah, if I can inspire the next generation and teach them about cameras, or teach them about whatever they need to learn, that will ultimately teach them about themselves and open something up and give them their voice. That's my ultimate goal.
I love that. We create the person we needed. We create the person we needed, our younger selves. You know, I think that's what we do. So I think a lot of that, like what you're saying, is that, like, you want to inspire the next generation.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Well, cool. So Studio O is your studio. Thanks for being here, Adrian.
I'm excited. I love this. You got a freaking amazing space.
Yeah, thanks, man. How can people find you?
Onwardgroup.us is our Instagram. Onwardgroup.us is our website. And then mine is Adrian Garcia SA. You'll find a lot of sarcasm, a lot of food, a lot of running. And traveling.
Well, thanks for being here again, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it was fun to catch up. It's been a while since we chatted, but it was fun to catch up.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, cool.
Best of luck with this.
Yeah, man. You too. I need to come check it out.